Welcome to Not Just Strong Black Women podcast with
My name is Nasimba, and I'm not your strong black woman. Welcome to episode 8 4 Reasons You May Need to Go to Therapy. So, I told you about the time I lost Jasi when I was 16 weeks in the last episode. Well, during that time, I was in my last semester of grad school. I majored in mental health counseling. I am currently a mental health therapist. But anyway, that's besides the point. Well, during that time, I lost um, Jazzy. I didn't realize that I needed to go to therapy. Things were just not right. And even though I was in school, I didn't realize the symptoms that I was having. It was actually a very miserable time. And like I mentioned in the last video, it was the hardest thing I've ever experienced. So this episode is about exactly what the title says, 4 reasons you may need to go to therapy. And you may be surprised by the reason. First of all, I want to define what therapy is. Therapy is not getting advice from a therapist. I feel like some people feel like they go to therapy and the therapist will have all the answers, but that is not the case. The answers are within you. Therapy is there to kind of guide you and show you different tools and techniques that you can use. Okay. So, the first sign that you may need to go to therapy is if you have a hard time being vulnerable. And that can mean so many different things. For example, if you have a hard time asking for help, or if you have a hard time saying no, or if you have a hard time expressing your feelings, if you go to therapy, they can practice what we call assertive communication, which is where you're able to express yourself in a respectful way, but still get those feelings out. Um, Let me slow down. Why am I talking so fast? We're not going nowhere. But anyway, there are 3 types of communication styles. One is the assertive communication, which I just mentioned, which is basically being able to express yourself, being able to be vulnerable, and being able to express your wants and needs in a respectful way. You have passive, which is you're expressing yourself indirectly, like you're trying to give clues, but not really saying what you need. And then you have aggressive, which is where you're expressing yourself angrily. Is angrily a word? Which is where you're expressing yourself in an anger type of way, or you don't care about the other person's feelings, you're just letting it all out. All that to say is that is one way to know that you may need to go to therapy if you're unable to express yourself. Number 2 reason you may need to go to therapy is if you're worried a lot. Now, everybody gets worried. There's not one person in the world that gets worried. Even babies get worried. But if you're worried to the point where you can't sleep, you can't focus, it's nothing, it's all you're thinking about, you're worried about the past, you're worried about the future, or you're thinking about things that may not even come to pass. If your worry is to that point, you may need to seek therapy. And how a therapist can work with you is basically by challenging some of those negative thoughts. For example, there's a thing where you can fact check your thoughts, because people, we are not our thoughts. I'm going to say that again. Our thoughts are not I. We are not our thoughts. Thoughts are just something that we have, and sometimes they can be real and sometimes they can be irrational. So, challenging your thoughts is one way to kind of fact check, oh, do I have proofs for the feelings I'm having? For example, say you're at work and you're worried about not doing a good job, and you can ask yourself, do I have proof that I'm not doing a good job? Oh, I'm doing this. I got complimented for that. No one has said anything to me. Those are proofs that you are doing a good job, and you just have to disregard that negative thoughts. So going to therapy can help teach you some of those techniques, even reframing your thoughts, which is basically if you have a negative thought, you can turn it into something positive. But I don't even want to say that, not necessarily something positive, but just reframing that thought. Like, for example, you say, oh, I'm fat. Well, instead of just saying fat, you can say something like, okay, I'm working towards losing weight by da 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 da, or these are some of the things I can do to work towards losing weight. So that is the second reason why you may need therapy if you are worried a lot. Number three is sadness. And sadness is a tricky one because, yes, we all get sad. Everybody gets sad. But if the sadness is to the point where you can't get out of bed, you can't eat, you're crying all the time, and you guys know I say it's okay to cry, but if you're crying all the time and you're unsure of why you're crying and it's just continuing to happen, then you know something is wrong. Like crying, I believe crying is the soul telling you that something is wrong. So if you're crying every single day, then something um, may be wrong. Even as it relates to grief, some people don't really connect their grief to their sadness, or they may not understand what's going on. But when you lose someone, there are 5 stages that you go through. The first stage is denial. Like when I lost Jazzy, well, she was basically gone. They told me that I had no water in my, water bag, and I was like, no way, she's okay, she's still alive. I was in denial, like I didn't want to believe that it was happening. So that's like the first stage of grief. Then you have anger, which is where you're just angry. You want to fight everybody. You're mad at everybody. You don't care what anybody had to say. And I definitely went through that with Jazzy. And then you have bargaining, where it's like, oh, you try to trade something. No, take me. Like when I lost Jazzy, I was like, God, no, take me and leave her here. But she was 16 weeks. She couldn't, even if she could survive, she couldn't make it in the world because she was not fully developed. And you also have sadness, and then you have acceptance, which is accepting the grief, which all of those stages that can happen in random times, they're at different times, but a therapist can work with you through some of those stages, and they can also provide tools and techniques to maybe gain to help you gain insight on what may be causing your sadness, and to help you develop tools that can help you. And number four, for the reason you may need therapy is if you are neglecting self care. Yes, that is number four. And these don't go in order. You may have one of them or you may have some of them. But neglecting self care, that's so important, y'all. Like self care, taking care of yourself. You take care of everybody else. What about you? And when I say what about you, I'm talking to myself too. Because there are times where I can do a better job at self care. By the way, I'm going to start doing yoga. I'm not good at it. I really actually suck at it, but I said I might as well just start doing it online, and maybe you guys can follow me, and you don't have to be perfect, or maybe you can teach me a thing or two. But anyway, back to the subject at hand, neglecting self care. You can go to therapy to learn different ways you can include self care in your life, whether it's meditating, your therapist can meditate with you, or she or he can show you different tools that you can do to meditate. You can do some grounding techniques, which is basically, say you're overthinking about something, kind of grounding yourself, putting yourself in the present moment, whether it's, using your senses, stretching, drinking more water, eating healthier, your therapist can come up with different ways of helping you come up with a plan to how you can include self-care in your life, or also to give you insight on why you may not be putting yourself first. So those are the four reasons that you may need therapy. And I just want to let you know, some people feel like they can't afford therapy. There's Medicaid out there. Some places do take Medicaid, and you can Google that, or you can find places that may offer therapy for free. You can Google, well, I don't know about the free part, but maybe at a lower cost. You can definitely Google that. And thank you so much. I hope that I was able to provide a space for you to breathe. Bye.